We see a lot here at FITSNews, folks, but one thing I don't think I've ever seen in all the court cases, all the crimes we've covered, are family members of a murder victim going to bat for the individual who was convicted, not just accused, actually convicted of murdering their loved one. But that's what we're dealing with in the case of Bradley Walker. Now, this news outlet covered this story earlier this year, and it's incredibly complicated, so let me get into it. I'll give you a little bit of background here. Bradley Walker was accused in the July 2018 murder of Aaron Peterson in Lexington County. This was a mobile home shooting in which one person, Peterson, was murdered and 3 others were wounded. Now, 2 of those wounded, according to the family members we spoke with, had a role in this crime. And in fact, it was a polyamorous relationship gone wrong, which led to a chain of events that resulted in this horrific crime. But before we get into those details, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the folks that we spoke with. One of them is named Lily Peterson. She is the daughter of Aaron, the deceased individual who lost his life in that trailer park shooting in Lexington County. The other is Aaron Peterson's mother, and that's Annette Twaits. And they both sat down with us to talk about what they believe was prosecutorial corruption and a failure on the part of law enforcement and prosecutors to hold those truly responsible for their loved one's death accountable. Now, we sat down with Lily and with Annette to get their thoughts on this story, which revolves, again, around a polyamorous relationship gone wrong, in which a woman by the name of Liz Peterson, who was married to the victim, engaged several other males in what was called, I guess, a throuple, you could call it, but trying to engage several males in this polyamorous relationship, but it went wrong. It spiraled out of control, and according to the relatives we spoke with, the man who was convicted of the murder of Aaron Peterson was also a victim. And in fact, he nearly died moments after the murder in a bizarre car fire that has yet to be explained by anybody on either side of this. No one knows exactly how the convicted killer in this case, who spent months in a burn unit after that car fire, how he ended up in that situation following this shooting. Just an incredibly complicated case, but one that really gained a lot of attention because of the allegations of police misconduct. And this news outlet reported back in January that prosecutors in the office of 11th Circuit Solicitor Rick Hubbard, we reported that they claimed in open court to have referred allegations of child sex assault and child porn that were found on the phone of their star witness, folks, the person whose testimony put Bradley Walker in jail. These images were found on this star witness's phone, but no charges were filed. And that was just one of many, many things that the jury in this case didn't get to hear. Now, was justice served in this case? Again, clearly the 11th Circuit jury of Brad Walker's peers spoke. They found him guilty. But the relatives in this case, the ones who were closest to Aaron Peterson, they do not believe justice was served. And here, folks, is their story.
Did the two of you feel like she wanted to push Aaron out because he wasn't going along with this polyamory thing that she wanted to do, or was he going along, or was it?
He was going along because that's what she wanted.
Mm-hmm. Was it what he wanted, though? You know your son.
I know my son. And he was perfectly fine with just Liz, just one person. Although one of the things that they also didn't get to hear, the jury, is that that day, in those last moments, he took off his glove, took off his wedding ring, and threw them both on the floor. And that tells me that she's involved.
There was some incident that...
Oh, yes. All he had to, Bear said in his text that if anybody messes with the one I love, I'll kill him. All she had to do was step up and start something with Aaron. And Johnny on the spot. He was the room. I believe in my heart, in my mind, and in my soul that they are involved. They're the two people that had a motive, opportunity, and
the
means. And they're the ones that benefit from his death.
Only ones.
The only ones.
Now, I'm going to play the devil's advocate here for a second. Prosecutors will argue that, hey, both Liz and Bear were wounded in this shooting.
Yeah, I think.
Their argument is, hey, they're victims as well.
Yeah. I believe that Liz may have been accidentally shot. I think somebody fired on Bear. And according to the actual trajectories, there are two shooters.
Interesting. So you think there's someone out there that's an accomplice that hasn't been identified, hasn't been obviously indicted? There's only one person indicted in connection with this, but you think
Right.
someone else was there?
Honestly, I think Brad may have shot someone, but I know it wasn't Aaron because he and Aaron bonded while they were packing up to move into an apartment together with Liz.
I do think that there was someone else. Given Liz's polyamory and how many men that, she's involved with. I mean, one of her exes went to prison or jail for
arson.
Arson.
Yeah.
So, she's had so many men in her life. It really isn't that preposterous of an idea that there was more than what was assumed.
Sure. You heard your grandmother just talk about this, but do you believe this is a lifestyle that your dad was pulled into, or do you think it was something? Let me ask it this way. If he had not been pulled into this lifestyle, would he be alive today?
Yes,
I
I
do
believe
believe
that with
that.
all my heart. I believe that the jury heard one side, the side that Liz and Bear told them. But if you looked at all of the evidence, which the jury was not allowed to hear, in fact, they spent more time out of the courtroom when the defense was trying to put on their side than they did inside the courtroom because they weren't allowed to hear.
Well, tell us about a few of the things that they didn't get to hear.
They didn't get to hear the emails, or not emails, but
Text messages.
text messages on their phones or the text messages on Messenger, Facebook Messenger. They didn't get to hear the timeline that from January to the time he was murdered. She interviewed 8 different men for her polyamorous relationship. And that really has nothing to do with the bearing on the case. But the thing that stuck in my mind is she stopped at the one who said he would kill for her. He would kill for the one he loved. And he already loved her as a friend. And then they got more and more and more sexually communicative. With the way things came down and the way, when Brad left the trailer, he wasn't rushing out of there like he just killed somebody and he's got to get away. He stayed behind, he let this lady go in front of him, and he followed her slowly, 45 miles an hour out of town, into town. He did not behave like somebody who killed somebody. And then his car gets on fire. It doesn't make sense. And to find out that her love of her life was an arsonist, I mean, come on. If you put 2 and 2 together and you look at this, the first person that you always suspect is the wife, the spouse, right? You investigate. They did not investigate. They just assumed that Liz and Liz and Bear are telling the truth. The two people who have the most to gain. The two people who were trying to get together. He doesn't share. That's in part of the evidence. He doesn't share. He doesn't like to share, but he'll put up with it until. I mean, if you look at all of the evidence, and you have to look at history, you have to look at evidence, you have to look at motive, you have to look at everything. And justice was not served. It was not served. I want everyone responsible to pay for what they did to him. Everyone.
Before we go, Lily, one last word for those folks who were tasked with getting justice for your late father. What would you say to them based on what you've gone through over the last few months?
I feel like that they should think more about the victims and the families and stop looking at it as something to win and something to basically upgrade your status. Upgrade is not the right word, but elevate. It really felt like it was just another win. It felt like something was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get 5 stars, you know what I mean? It didn't feel genuine, and it didn't feel like they were doing it for justice. It really did feel like they were playing a game, and that's all they wanted to do was win.